Welcome to episode 12 of the Michigan Outdoors podcast. As always, I'm Tyler Mihai alongside Justin Tomei and Steve Wyndham. We're joined by a very special guest today, Brad Dupuie of Angler Quest Pontoons. The Michigan Outdoors podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and a video edition on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you're not already, follow us on Instagram as well, at Michigan Out of Doors Pod.
Still no YouTube music?
No YouTube.
Do you listen to YouTube music, Brad?
I sure do.
See?
2 in a row.
That's very surprising.
All right. The next intro will have YouTube music in it. He's going to start posting there.
And go to the YouTube channel so you can see all of our sweet gear. We are matching today.
The sweet taste of vindication.
We are branded today.
Big
so go
shout out
check
to
it out.
Angler Quest and Brad for all of the apparel.
Absolutely.
And the Michigan Outdoors podcast is proud to partner with Onyx Hunt. Join the millions of hunters who trust Onyx Hunt to help them fill their freezers. Create hunt strategies for your property with custom waypoints, view wind forecasts for individual stand sites, integrate with cell cameras, and so much more. Onyx is essential for hunters to understand property lines, find an eScout public land and other hunting spots, and all of the other tools to give yourself the best possible chance at a successful hunt. All current MUCC members are eligible for a 1-month free trial of Onyx Elite and an additional 20% off your annual membership. New MUCC members will get a free 3-month trial of Onyx Elite in their welcome email when signing up. To find your current membership discounts, log into your MUCC member portal and click on the membership discount link to see all of those benefits of being an MUCC member. Join MUCC today to take advantage of these offers. All right, we are back. It is episode 12. Brad, thanks for joining us. How we all doing?
Doing good.
We're doing great. I appreciate you guys having me here. And by the way, the Onyx app is an incredible tool. Absolutely incredible. I use that all the time.
Have you seen the new fish one they have?
I have not.
So they have an ORV app now, and then they just launched their brand new Onyx Fish app. So there's a fish specific app for anglers like you.
Wow. I got to check that out.
I don't know. Has it come to Michigan yet?
It's beta still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still in a beta, but they're hoping to have it up this summer.
So it'll show, I believe, all of the topographic lines. I think it'll have community fishing spots, kind of like Fishbrain, where it'll say, here's this spot you could probably catch pike here, or, these people caught this fish in this area. I think it'll be somewhat community.
How long till that's hooked into your iPilot or something,
I mean, probably right away, because you can do everything else with an iPilot.
Absolutely. You can follow contours. You can all that. You can link everything together. A very common thing with the boats that we do.
Yeah. So get Onyx, and make sure if you do get Onyx, you're using your MUCC member discount. All right, let's hop into policy. There was an NRC meeting on the 13th.
Yep, there was. That was it.
All right.
Any fireworks?
Any firework? No.
Calling out of who lives where and how much their house was worth?
No, everybody behaved themselves.
One of the more respectful NRC meetings, I would argue.
Yeah. There were, the normal couple anti-hunters there. The new HSUS guy was there. He's going to be at all the meetings talking about the common ground we can find with the anti-hunters. Yeah. But the big thing on the agenda last week was bear regs. Well, I guess 2 weeks ago, by the time you hear this, was bear regs. A number of changes being proposed, a number of changes not being proposed. So, they want to move. There's a proposal to move the date that you can put your tree stand up on public land if you're bear hunting to match the date you can start baiting. Pretty simple regulation. Changes to where or to what you have to actually bring into your bear registration, where you can attach your kill tag, and some adjustments to the quiet period, so that the hound hunters can have Labor Day, the full Labor Day weekend, to run their dogs before the quiet period before bait hunting starts. So those are the changes. The big one, though, most people were there to talk about the quotas, specifically red oak and Baldwin. I want to say it's like a 6% increase in red oak, which is like 60 tags is being proposed. And then like a 42% increase in tags in Baldwin, which is like 165 or 185 tags. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. So
red oak is in the lower, right?
Yeah, both of them are.
They are.
Red oak is like the northeastern lower from.
That's
like
the one that takes 18 points to get into, isn't it?
It's a lot. It's like 12.
Yeah.
I think Amy drew it with 10.
Yeah.
I had to give her
Zach,
back.
isn't that Zach's?
Yeah, that's where Zach drew. He had 18. He was always going to save up for Drummond Island, but it's a double digit point unit. That's like the northeast lower east. I think the line is like 131 around Kalkaska east. I don't remember how far south it goes down to like Gladwin County, I think. And then Baldwin is, the other part of Kalkaska County, Grand Traverse, Wexford, Benzie, Leland, all like that whole northwest lower. So, that's a 42% increase. That's a big increase in tags for that unit, but it's what the department thinks they can do. So a lot of the bear guys and the hound guys were there. They were advocating for maybe pumping the brakes on some of these big increases because they don't think that the bear populations are there.
One thing I did find interesting about that was the reason they're increasing the quotas is because of I don't remember if it was a decrease in harvest rate, but they basically said the harvest percentage was not at the level that they wanted it.
Yeah, they're trying to achieve, I don't want to say arbitrary because that's not the right word. They're not arbitrary. They're not managing for a specific number of bears. They're managing for like this happy middle between a few metrics that they use, including hunter satisfaction, the amount of harvest effort it takes to harvest a bear, nuisance complaints. I mean, it's this amalgamation of data that they use to kind of decide whether or not they're in a good spot. And
that's a big word for you.
Amalgamation. No, you got capital Justin today. Bush Light Justin stayed home. So it's an amalgamation of data, and that's how they kind of come up with their desired harvest levels. And they're trying to tinker their desired harvest levels to kind of level off the population in the northern lower. And it's a little controversial. So we'll see what happens in the next meeting. It's eligible for action at the March meeting, which is in Grand Rapids, which we'll talk about in a minute.
What's our policy on this?
We generally support the recommendations of the Bear Forum. The Bear Forum this year was different than the years past. Normally we go there and they go, we want this unit to have this quota, which is this many tags and this much estimated harvest. And the Bear Forum kind of gives notes on that. This year, the recommendations weren't quite ready. And so we were voting on like different scenarios. So it's harder to say that the Bear Forum wanted this. I'm not a biologist, so I tend to defer to
the forum,
to Cody, the bear biologist.
Let me ask you a quick question too.
What the department want? So, I would tend to defer to them. Normally, we would defer to the Bear Forum, but we don't have any policy on any specific quotas for any unit. I will say, I understand the bear hunter's concern because bear is such a slow recruiting species.
Oh yeah,
that you could tip the scale
in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction and not know it for a couple of years. The department seems to think we're not there yet. And so that's what I'll say about that.
So how does the Bear Forum arrive at different results versus the department? Are they more anecdotal research? Because I know, just at the meeting, a lot of people were speaking anecdotally, but they have their own I've never been to a Bear Forum. So they have their own biologists, they're doing their own research, or how does that work?
Nope. So the Bear Forum is run by the department, and it's a number of stakeholder groups. I represent MUCC when it's on. But like I said, normally the department comes and says, we're looking at this regulation. In this case, we'll use the tree stand example, setting your tree stand up. Everybody talks about it, little around the room.
Say what that is real fast for those that don't know.
It's the tree stand thing we talked about where you set up your tree stand the day you start baiting for bear. So they bring it up. We go around the room. I think it's a good idea. I think this is a bad idea. Everybody we don't really vote that much. We usually just get in the thing. And then they'll not denote 18 of the 20 people supported this thing. So then in the memo it'll read a majority of Bear Forum members supported this proposal. Normally for quotas they'll say this in Baldwin, our desired harvest is X. That means we want to have a quota of Y. What do you guys think? Everybody goes around the room and comments on it. But this year they didn't have those ready. So we were like choosing between different scenarios of like, if we want desired harvest to be this, we need to increase tags this percent. So we didn't actually know what the department was.
It was more
propose.
like what if analysis.
Yeah. So it's the department biologists that are there. They bring in a third party from within the department to run the meeting so that the bear biologist doesn't have to be the bad guy. We get all sorts of presentations and data, and it's really cool. They are open to the public technically, so you could come watch. They're usually in St. Ignace the weekend before Labor Day.
So that's an annual meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this would be a sister program to like the DAT.
Similar
idea.
It's stakeholder groups, stakeholder advisory committees. Yeah. So there's a fur taker user group that usually happens the same weekend because it's a lot of the same people. So that's like we'll do one on Friday, all day Friday, and then one all day Saturday. So they try and make a whole weekend out of it. But yeah, it's a similar thing. The DAT is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Does the department have a bear plan like it does an elk plan? Because they were talking about the elk plan this weekend up north, and they were like, yeah, we'll revisit the elk plan in 8 years. Is it?
I think so, but I haven't seen it lately.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So it's managed differently then, because there's not like an elk forum.
No,
right?
Kind of actually there is. When they do the elk management plan, they like convene this group. I was not the representative on that for MUCC. We actually had a member who's been involved with those for a number of years.
Yeah.
And he participated kind of on our behalf. So, no, there's CWAC, Citizens Waterfowl Advisory Committee, the Deer Advisory Team, Bear Forum, Fur Taker User Group. I'm sure there's all the different Lake Basin meetings, Cold Water Advisory Team. So there's a billion of these things between DNR groups, legislative groups, and stakeholder groups. I serve on like 30 of these damn committees. So they all run together for me.
Okay.
But anyways, bear eggs. That's bear eggs up for action next month. John Walters indicated as well that he will be bringing forth an amendment to the Wildlife Conservation Order to allow antlerless take during the Independence and Liberty hunts for everybody except for the youth hunters. Antlered, excuse me.
So to bring antler deer back for the veteran and disability hunt.
Correct, but not for the youth hunters during those special seasons. So it sounds like that's at least one option going to be reconsidered, but this will be up for action at the April, or up for information in April, action in May.
So it would be.
I do know what the department's going to recommend. I don't think it's public yet, so I don't think I'm going to say it. But I do know what the department is going to recommend, and what the deer advisory teams are going to recommend. So,
but action in May would then be reinforcement in the 25.
Yeah, the intention is to set up whatever regulations in place for this coming deer season,
because we haven't had a full season with that.
Which bow season is 226 days away.
Yeah, because they passed it last year after the youth season, and then the announcement came out and everybody had their opinions.
And I have mine on that one for sure.
Yeah.
So the department won't be bringing forward a huge memo, kind of like last year where it had all the DMI stuff in it. So deer stuff will be a little more scaled down. I know commissioners have their various priorities that they want to work on. So looking ahead to the March meeting, though, besides voting on bear regs, Commissioner Walters requested an amendment to the Wildlife Conservation Order to bring back year-round coyote hunting. So if you remember, the commission illegally, in our opinion, partially closed coyote hunting between mid-April, mid-July last year at the March meeting. MUCC and the Michigan Trapper and Predator Callers filed suit against them for the illegal closure because it was not based on science. By commissioner's own admissions and admissions of the department biologist, it was due to perceived social pressures. So this will be, the amendment will be up for information in March, action in April, and we could potentially, I think that April meeting would be like 2 days before.
It could avoid the closure.
It could avoid the closure
of the 25 season.
Correct. Trying to see the exact date of that meeting.
You ever do any predator hunting, Brad?
I have not, but I'll be honest with you, Steve, I really should be on my property,
April 10th.
which is up in Aranac County. I have a huge coyote problem, and it is something that I need to control them. I haven't gotten into that sport. I need to, just for my herd purposes.
Yeah.
I had shot in a doe during gun season right before dark. I knew I hit that animal good, couldn't find any blood. And I said, Al, I'm going to roll the dice and I'm going to go and get her in the morning, which I knew I was seeing all kinds of coyotes on camera. And I knew that probably wasn't a good move. I learned something there because I thought to myself, I don't want to go in there with lights, be egregious and shake up the herd. And that night I went back to the cabin where I was staying and I got coyote after coyote on my cameras. And I got back the next morning, found her right away, and I should have just gotten in there deeper where I thought she was. And sure enough, she was absolutely decimated. Both hindquarters were eaten down to the bone.
Wow.
One of the front shoulders were gone. That deer was tore apart.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know what? That was foolish for me to take that perspective on being egregious and shaking up the property, because what was worse, me down there with lights recovering a doe, or 6 or 8 coyotes that were in there going to town on that deer. So I'm not a coyote hunter. I need to be. I want to be, because I have a big problem with them in Aranac County.
Yeah. So anybody listening who wants to take Brad coyote hunting, he'll take you. He'll take you fishing if you take him coyote hunting.
Yeah, I'm definitely a barterism type person. So absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, that's going to be on the agenda for the March meeting. So I expect you're going to have a full house in Grand Rapids. I think it's at the Blandford Nature Center on March 13th. Don't worry, folks. It will be an open meeting with all interested stakeholders. There will be nothing behind closed doors and shady being done there. So they're going to do it in a normal public meeting. You will have your opportunity to provide comment and make sure that the commission knows what you think. So
you can also submit comment ahead of time if you're not able to be there in person. You can reach out to Justin if you're a member to have him carry your voice through MUCC, and you can stream it live on our Facebook page and watch all of the openness happen.
Assuming the Blandford Nature Center has decent Wi-Fi. But yeah, MUCC will be there. We will be maintaining our position that coyote season should be year round if there is no biological reason for it not to be. And I don't know. I intend on making a splash. We'll see. It'll be fun.
We have resolutions on the floor about this antlerless gig for youth and independence. And all that. So
before they vote, we will actually. Our cords are all tied up. Before they vote, our position, we may have a position on the independence and liberty hunts. There's a resolution going to convention, and it will be voted on 4 days prior to the commission meeting. So we may have a position come that meeting, but we'll see. So that's policy. Legislature is really still pretty slow. Not a lot going on.
Our resolution. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question about the independence hunt. As you guys may or may not know, that one is pretty personal to me because I have a son who's 22 years old, who's 100% disabled. And while I understand the perspective on going to doe only for youth hunts and independence hunt, with my son, that independence hunt is a great opportunity for him because it's hard to get him out there when it's cold, muddy conditions. And my question is there like a number of what kind of actual animals get shot during that hunt by disabled and 100% disabled people?
I don't know that I can specify by.
I wanted to say it was 1%.
Yeah, but it's for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
It's for like all,
I can tell you exactly how many deer were reported.
I don't think it breaks it down between a youth hunter,
correct,
or a veteran or a hunter with disability. So we don't think that granular of detail. It tells you the total harvest for that weekend for any tag. Like, so anybody who uses either hunt, it tells you how many bucks, how many does, and what percentage of the overall harvest in the year it is. But I don't believe they subset it
they don't
to where it's like your son would be in one bucket, my son would be in another bucket,
everybody,
and then it's that weekend's harvest.
Well, if it ever loads, I can tell you how many it was, but
I know for him, I have to have a permit to hunt from a standing vehicle for him, which he has. And, for him, it's a great opportunity. The deer are, when you have somebody who's disabled, in his case, he has something called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and his muscle, it's a dystrophy where his muscles get weaker as he gets older. And in order to get him out of deer, I've got several food plots on my property. And when the deer come out or out there feeding, it gives us an opportunity to get him set up, get him eyeballing the scope. And to do that, when the deer are moving through real quick or when they're under pressure, it's tough. And I believe it's got to be such a small number. And for him, I would love to see him be able to have that advantage because it's time that we really enjoy out there and to get him out there. And we're going to go either way. And he can hunt the youth hunt for the rest of his life as well. But I support that being doe only, just because I think our youth need to understand and learn that it's okay to shoot does. But that small group of people in independence hunt that are truly able, that qualify, I think are so insignificant. I don't see it being an impact from more does or the bucks that are harvested.
Yeah. And I think that was that was heard very loudly after the decision was made. And correct me if I'm wrong, but our resolution that's going to be voted on at convention is to bring back antlered harvest for the veterans and disabled population. So the independent side, it doesn't.
No, it does both. It's antlered opportunity for liberty and independence.
It does for the resolution. Yeah. So we have a resolution that the members will vote on, that if it passes, we would then be advocating for the return of antlered harvest in those hunts.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not either one; it's both
for us
combined.
specifically.
For us it is specifically. But I believe what the commissioner, what the commission and the DNR are looking at first is that independence hunt.
They have said they are at this time they are only going to be looking at the independence hunt. As of right now, they will not be looking at the liberty hunt.
So the youth potentially could stay doe only this year, where they're reassessing their decision on the independence. So for veterans and disabled.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The majority of pushback has been very, very similar, stories.
My pushback's been all of it. It's not been.
I'm saying the public has been.
It's been, but I've been getting calls. I got more calls on this than anything, and it was the whole kit and caboodle, liberty and independence. So,
yeah. And I have a similar thought process that you do, Brad, where like I've got 3 kids who are all under the age of 14, and I really don't have any issue having them harvest their first deer be a doe, because I do believe, and I think that was probably part of the thinking, is like, we'll get young kids to start learning how to harvest does, and then we'll have this great population of doe harvesters. And I think there was a lot of pushback, but I'm in the mindset of, for my personal family, for my children, I don't mind that restriction that they can harvest a doe for their first hunt. And then they've got the rest, because my one son got hunter safety certified at 10 years old. So whether or not he hunts the liberty hunt or he hunts during the season, that's not really, because some kids can only hunt that liberty hunt if they're not, doing anything else. But for me, I agree that I think that the independence, and it will be reviewed. I hope they bring it back. For my children, I don't really have an issue with the youth hunt being.
We don't have a position.
Yep.
I know we don't.
You just said a position.
I said my personal thought process. Some would say
we have one rule.
Some would say.
Now we have one rule.
Some would say.
And some would say that,
there's no issue. But you got to go hunting to shoot deer.
So, anyways, legislative stuff, not a lot going on. It's really slow. They named committees.
They look good though.
Yeah, I think we talked about this, but the Natural Resources Committee in the House looks pretty dang good. Representative David Martin from Davison. I think Davison, definitely Genesee County, is the chair. He was the minority vice chair before. So yeah, it should be good. It's a good committee. I think it's a lot of people. It's like 17 people, which is insane. But otherwise they're not really doing anything in our world anyways.
All right. The Michigan Outdoors podcast is proud to partner with Giant Mouse Knives, a Michigan-based company born from a shared vision in 2015 to create knives that combine exceptional design, top-tier craftsmanship, and a strong sense of community. At Giant Mouse, every knife is crafted with care and purpose. From the first sketches to the final production, the team ensures that each blade meets the highest standards. Whether you're in the field, on the water, or tackling your next outdoor adventure, Giant Mouse knives are built to perform and made to last. Explore their full lineup of exceptional everyday carry knives at giantmouse.com and follow them on social at Giant Mouse Knives for updates on new releases and exclusive drops. MUCC members receive an exclusive 25% off their order with a discount code found in your member portal. Giant Mouse Knives, knives done right. And you can see the guys are now playing with the Giant Mouse knives. They were so nice to drop off. Thoughts?
I love them. I think they open so smooth. They're really cool. There's a lot of different blade shapes and contours to them. I mean, our discount is insane as a member. Like it's a $185 knife and you get 25% off. That's already nearly double what you paid for a membership. And so, I mean, they're right here in Lansing. Really cool guys. And so real nice knives. I love it. You can see us. Yeah. So go to the YouTube channel and you can see these bad boys sitting on the table. And this will have already, by the time this airs, we will have already been at Outdoorama. But if you did stop by Outdoorama, you'll be able to hold on to these and touch them and see some options that we have. For those of you watching on YouTube, they dropped off a nice little display case. So we proudly show off all the knives in our office every day.
So my thoughts, first time I've seen these knives, my first thought is this is a quality knife. It is nice and smooth and appears to be very well built. I'm impressed.
Yep.
Nice looking product.
I'm gonna pick one up now.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get this one, the Riv with the micarta scale. I'm not a big fan of the slippy metal, but I like the micarta.
But I recommend for anyone that is interested in a giant mouse knife, the second you pick one up, start playing with it, you will be sold.
Agreed.
Back down. True. All right.
All right. Well, Brad, let's hop into a little bit about you, a little bit about Angler Quest. If you want to give us the background, the intro on Angler Quest, let's just get into all of that.
Yeah. As we go through, if you guys think of questions or anything you want to pick apart, please jump in. Angler Quest is a fishing amenity driven pontoon boat, triple tube. When most people think of pontoon boats, they do not think of a hardcore fishing vessel. I was tasked with coming up with this design. It would have been probably in the 2011, 2012 timeframe, and building a boat how I would want it built on how I fish Saginaw Bay. I've been a lifelong Saginaw Bay person since I've been very young. And I've seen the evolution of that whole fishery from what it was to what it is now. And I personally was a V-bottom guy. I owned a Yarcraft, a Starcraft, a Lund Pro V Deluxe. And I was skeptical when I was tasked with doing this project. It was one of these things. My role in the company, I had a lot of things going. I had a hard time getting to the design of this. I did it at home on my free time. And when I talk about a fishing amenity product, the tagline "Built with Purpose," there are things on that boat that are there for a purpose and specific reason they're there. There are not pontoon boats out there that have a binary wall, which is in effect a gunnel to be able to put track systems, downrigger systems, rod holder systems. Most of the boats are really concentrated to the stern of the boat for the trollability of the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
At first, when I first came out with this product in 2014, I came out with the very first one. We built a prototype, and it was one of those things when we built it, I was like, man, that's special. You can just see it. You could feel it. The very first time I took my wife and my kids out on Saginaw Bay fishing with it, I kind of thought it would be kind of bobberish, sits a little higher in the water. I kind of thought it would have a lot of movement. And I took them out there. And at the time, my kids were pretty small. And there's about a 15 mile an hour southwest wind. And I got out there and we fished. We caught a bunch of fish. And I was shocked by how this thing performed. The stability was incredible. When you think of a V-bottom boat, there's one point of rotation. The V itself acts as a point of rotation. In a triple tube or a pontoon, those two outside tubes really stabilize the movement, and you do not get the movement on deck, let alone the room that it offers. And the spread that I can put on this boat is incredible. And, the fishing boats that are out there are a couple fishing seats, a little live well. And, these boats, the Pro Troll is the flagship of this line. It's got a 28-gallon live well in the back. It's got another 16-gallon live well in the back, full gunnel down both sides with very robust. And the key to these boats are, it also has the couches up front, and those couches and being able to have the family and everybody involved in the whole boat and the experience is really something that hasn't existed. It's multifunctional. It isn't just a fishing boat.
Get them out of the way of the fishing.
Yeah.
Get the kids up front. Get on.
That's right. And I don't talk about this enough, but it is a perfect vessel to get kids introduced. When they're stuck in a cockpit of a V-bottom boat, it can be a negative experience for them. We're here, they can walk around, run around. I don't endorse running on the boat, but they're contained with a wall system. If they want to take a nap, they want to have a snack, they can get on the benches, and it's a better overall experience for kids. And it's very common that I get families that have a fishing boat and have a pontoon boat and sell both of them and get into a boat like this. So all the testing and everything on this really originated on Saginaw Bay. And the walleye fishing was really the focus. As you can see on the cover, that has fishing chairs out front. It's something called the Sport Fish Extension, which does give you the ability to give it front end fishability. So it's not just a stern fishing boat for trolling. That front end fishability does offer more multifunctional stuff from a fishing aspect. This is a center console design. It's got all kinds of storage. It's got rod holder systems on both sides. You can store rods, 5 up to 9 foot rods per side. A lot of tackle storage. Just a boat that is evolved from that first boat that came out in 2014 to what it is now. There's been incredible evolution to that boat. And I'll be honest with you, I fish the heck out of mine. I keep it right at Linwood Beach Marina.
Yeah.
I probably do 35 trips a year. You know, I do more, but our winds these days seems like they blow so often. And the big challenge with this, when I first introduced it, was, you know, how does it do on the big water? People weren't used to that. And that was the question that I got all the time. And I've overcome that hill per se, because people understand it now. But first few years, convincing people that a pontoon or a triple tube, that's really the critical thing. If you are going on big water, you want a triple. You want that ability to put a big motor. You want the flotation so you're sliding across the surface, not cutting through. And the ride of these are incredible. People have no idea that haven't been on one how well they do in the rough water. People will say, well, how big a waves can you handle? And it's like, well, it'll handle any wave that comes my way. But for me, if I'm not in my boat out there because it's rough, usually nobody else is going either. I'm not afraid of that rough weather. This whole chassis, the tubes, the channeling are all really beefed up and designed for that big water. So it is that Pro Troll is the center console flagship of the product line. There's also a family fish that has a little less stern fishability, a big L group, a little more of a furniture package, a side console, and I also have a panfish series, which is strictly geared towards the inland lake. So it's a product line that I had started at the company I used to work for in 2014. Kind of the history of that is, to make a long story short, this podcast will go on forever. But the company I was working for decided it was very niche oriented, compact pontoons and fishing pontoons, hardcore fishing pontoons. And they decided to not be in that niche market and go into 8.5 foot pleasure boats. And because that sector of the pontoon market, there's more registrations than any pontoon boat in that sector. But there's also 20 manufacturers doing that too. So I took the opportunity to acquire the brand. I own Angler Quest now. It used to be Q with a W. Part of the agreement was I had to go to a U instead of the W, so it wasn't confused with their product, which I had no problem with because everybody uses a U anyway.
Even when they don't spell the old brand right.
I laughed. There's a dealer up in Canada that they still have a couple Angler Quests left. And I was checking out their website. I heard they're interested in boats. And on their website, it's been there for a couple of years. It's actually spelled with a U. So people have more of a tendency to use that spelling. And if a person is www.anglerquestpontoons.com is the website. And if a person goes to Angler Quest, there's a lot of data out there for the older vessels. So it is a much different brand now. And, for me, when I developed a cult following on this, and there's a lot of people who own them, everybody loves them. And I hear all the positive feedback all the time. And when the company quit making that, I had people getting a hold of me saying, man, what are you doing? That's a great boat. And I said, hey, it's not me, and to see the retail customer, let alone the dealer who's relying on this not niche product for their businesses and their success, they were upset also. But even that retail person, so, and it's very near to my heart. And I can talk about every nut in this boat nut and bolt in this boat to bore you guys to death, which I won't do. But so it's very near and dear to me. So I brought it back. This is the first catalog for the first model year. By the time all the agreements got settled and signed off on, it was late in the fall. I had a little dealer meeting, and we're off and running. Teamed up with a great group of guys that were building them, and actually got to market very quickly. Now, that being said, it's a tough market out there. Things are improving heavily. You can see it. You can feel the uptick. The last year, it's been tough in the marine industry. There's been some businesses, dealers that have, ultimately perished and don't exist because of how tough it's been.
Yeah, so, there's one along 131 north of Grand Rapids that's no longer there anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and as a result of that kind of stuff, when a dealer goes out of business, the manufacturer or the bank that floor plans them, they pull those boats and distribute these boats at a huge discount to dealers typically close to where that dealer folded up. So that's also something that's happening, is there's a lot of low cost old inventory on the market. For me,
but they have the W on the side, right?
That's right. That's right.
Not the U.
That's right. And that boat is still a viable vessel. It is. And there's still some of that out there. And I tell people, if you treat it, with care, you're going to be fine. It's still very similar. The product was stagnant for probably the last 3 years. There was a lot of improvements. As you know, when you're developing a product, if you stop developing, you're behind, and no matter how good it is, you always have to listen to your customers and try to improve that product. And man, this first crack at this boat, I got to roll in a whole bunch of stuff that people have been asking for. So
that's awesome.
It's been received really, really well. This story I'm telling you guys, I tell people all over the place, at boat shows that I go to, and I want to get you guys on a boat so you can personally experience what I'm talking about. We'll is a fishing machine. And in Linwood Beach Marina, there's 35 of these that are in the actual marina. And that tells you a lot right there. There's probably no other boat. Well, no, probably about it. It's a fact. There are not 35 of one particular brand in there, period. Not even close. So, I've really overcome that big water question that people had, and it's a viable boat for that big water, and the comfort level, the fishability, and the multifunctional aspect that boat offers is there's nothing else out there like it. So I'm very proud to be leading this, and if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let any other reasons tell me other than feedback, common sense, development to improve this product. So that's how the product got started. And like I said, I was expanded basically throughout the nation in a lot of different fisheries. With the old particular place I was at, I had a catfish model. You start going down south, catfish are a huge thing down there. Out west in the Dakotas, Minnesota, those big bodies of water out there and how they fish them, people want to take and design them how they want for how they fish. And I'm a small company. So, if somebody says, hey, I want to do this, but can we do that? There's flexibility. I can do some custom stuff. And that's very important, excuse me, to never lose that, ability to be flexible in a small company. It makes me and the company what it is. So I'm excited about it, and we're off and running. I need more sales. Most people, everybody in the industry needs more sales.
Yeah.
It's tough out there.
We need more members, so we feel you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
He was looking at a boat, and I'm like, dude, buy a shell and build it how you want. And it sounds like you just did that and turned it into like a real business model, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's got so many features. Like on the smaller panfish boats that I have a lot of things that I sell on that boat that make it what it is, fabricated out of 4x8 sheets of plastic so that it's has ventilation. It's not rotocast, cheaper stuff with a floor so that when you open up the cushion, you have a science experiment. My stuff breathes, and everything that I do on those small boats, I have to talk about that kind of stuff. On these big boats, I never have to get to that because I talk about all the features that are there, and you never have to get to that because there's so many other features on this boat that make it what it is from a fishability standpoint. It sells itself.
I think pontoons are underrated too. I've been fishing since I was 3, and we grew up with deep V's, runabouts, pontoons. I fished them all. I always thought, especially as a kid, a pontoon was so much more enjoyable because I remember on my grandpa's runabout and you're up on the bow and you're just kind of leaning over the edge and it's not very comfortable and there's really no good way to sit. Pontoon, there's 1,000 different ways that you can fish and sit. And once we started fishing our first pontoon, I was like, for a family of 5 or 6, this is way better. We fit better. It was easier. It was more comfortable. I think pontoons for fishing are underrated as a whole.
I 100% agree. And like I said, I was one of those skeptics. When I first came out with this, I was like, I don't know, And the first time I took that on a fishing trip on Saginaw Bay in pretty windy conditions, I told the guys at the marina, I said, this thing is awesome. And I was shocked at how well it did. And I occasionally go fishing with my buddies that have V-bottom hulls, and while we catch them and it's fun, I can't wait to get back in this boat because it is so much nicer of an experience and so much more comfortable. And it's just, and like I said, I don't think I do a good enough job talking about it, but for kids, this is a great thing. Mom can come along. She can exist up front. There's been people that when it first came out, coined it as a reverse mullet, business and back and party.
I was called a reverse mullet today by our CEO at lunch.
Some people probably think of a pontoon as their grandpa's 10-horse lake putter. I mean, you guys are rocking triple tubes and 300-horse outboards that these things are moving to your spot. They're getting there quick. They're stable on the water.
It's worth doing. It's worth overdoing.
Yeah. And it's
like it.
It's neat to see. I mean, I'm looking at the brochure, but just like the front fishing with the trolling motor, the whole rod rack, I think the rod storage is really slick because it's out of the way. That's my biggest thing with my kids on my dad's boat is like, where do you put the rods? And then somebody kicks one over, somebody gets their line snagged, but just all of the features in it. And when we were at Fishing Show and Showplace, you had a couple models down there at the fishing show, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was, before the show started, I went and looked at one. I couldn't find you. You were, but these are awesome. Like they're just so well made, and just the back platform with like the built-in tape measure and the fillet station or whatever, it's such a cool idea. And for me, 3 kids, growing up in a family like Tyler, like, yeah, I can't fit all my kids in most V-bottom boats and still have them be comfortable.
Yeah, and if you do, your time's limited because they don't want to be out there as long as what you're in. And these, they can go up front and take a nap if they want.
Yeah, throw the cooler, get them a little blanket.
That custom stuff. Can I get a panfish with a center console?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as it is one of those things that we don't have to do a new wall set or do something funky, we're going to do it. We're hungry. We need business, and we're a small company. Everything that we do, we have a full engineering set of prints. So if a wall gets damaged or whatever, we can service it because we have that reference.
And where are you making these at?
We're actually making them in northern Indiana.
Okay.
And I am stationed up in Linwood, Michigan is where I'm at. And I have a demo that's right in the water, and it's there for that purpose. And when I have people who have never been on an angler quest or a triple tube on big water, if I can get them on my boat, I'm golden because it verifies what I know and they get to experience it. I had a gentleman who he's really interested in a boat. He's in Wisconsin. Him and his buddy were fishing in a Warrior on Lake Erie. And he had an angler quest go by him in 2-3 footers. And he was just absolutely blown away. And he's never been on one. And he is really interested in a boat. And as soon as we break to open water, he wants to go on a demo. And
that's awesome.
For me, that is a great thing because he'll experience it and hopefully it'll be a nice chop and we can get out there. And it's just like any vessel. If you don't quarter into them correctly, quarter with them correctly when it's rough, and work the throttle and manage the throttle responsibly, it can be tough for everybody on board. But there's a lot of people that are like that know nothing than full bore and
just crashing through it.
2 speeds.
And I tell people it's super important to just like any boat, you have to manage the throttle and hit a certain angle on the waves and be conscious of what you're doing. So and you're exactly right, Steve. It's not Grandpa's pontoon anymore.
Yeah.
And these have so many features and so many things on them geared towards fishing. Like I said, I had a whole network throughout the whole nation focusing on specific fisheries. It was very interesting. When I first came out with this product, there were some guys who were sales managers in given marinas and that don't have families. And they're like, oh man, if I own this one, I'd put 4 fishing seats and this and that, and kind of ignore the family aspect of it in the couches. And the truth of the matter is those are the hardest ones to move, because now all of a sudden you've taken that market from a family, kids, a grandpa and his grandkids and everybody
5 buddies on a boat. Yeah.
There's just so many different possibilities. You took that away. And those ones that are the harder core with just fishing seats are the hardest ones to sell. And I have an owners tournament. It's in the end of July this year. The last couple of years, we've had over 40 boats in the tournament. It doesn't cost them anything. We have a tournament, $1,000 big fish, 250 for, there's several prizes in there. Mm-hmm. And we get together and you see every aspect of the people who enjoy their angler quest. You'll find families that have mom and dad and a couple kids and they're all wearing matching jerseys to 6 people that are just out there partying, enjoying their time. You have the hardcore guys that are doing it that way. So you see all these different aspects on how people are using that boat. And it's really cool to see. And I was fired up last year. I held that tournament. I paid for everything. And I was able to tell my story again. I'm back, baby. And it was very exciting for me. And it's very exciting now. And I'm looking forward to building more and more and building this product back up to what I know it can be.
So you spent most of 24 getting ready for like the big 25 launch then, right? So 25 is kind of the first run of the re-engineered new, the new boat, all the new features. And so what's that timeline from your idea to like now they're on lots and marinas ready to go?
So a lot of it, last year was all that, Steve. Mm-hmm. From the beginning of the year throughout the year was in preparation to get ready to build these and getting resources to do that financially, everything. I've been through it. I know what I have to do. In the old company, I used to be the development guy. Mm-hmm. I was the designer. I was the engineer. I evolved into taking over the shop, the production floor, and kind of the overall operation. I knew every aspect and know every aspect of it because I've done it. So, and I was the fisherman of the company. So I got to find pleasure of having to test these specimens, and I still do that today. Yeah. So,
where does one sign up for that, Joe?
Hey, come with me, and you're a part of it.
You're not gonna have to twist my arm to go fishing.
No, so. we have a tremendous fishery on Saginaw Bay, and I'd love to get you guys out there because it's productive. It's just a great experience on the boat, and you'll see for yourselves. And they fish incredible, and the Pro Troll that's on the cover has got a big track stack radar arch. And there's, people use them fishing salmon. There's different people throughout the state that use them for all different aspects of fishing. But these are kind of geared towards the big water and they're awesome vessels and they are fishing machines.
Do you run the 26? Your boat?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Yep.
That's awesome.
This one that's on the cover was the very first one for the new company, Steve. And, at first, typically I have wall benders and things like that to make the front radiuses. And we first did this one. We just kept it square with kind of big chamfers on the corners. Mm-hmm. It turns out people really liked the look, and it has this utilitarian feel to it. And it also allowed me to do, this is a little thing that's there for a purpose. In Linwood Beach Marina, out of that 35, there's 15 of them in the marina that got big dents in the front walls because on big water, they catch a wave wrong and then you can dent that wall. Well, that front wall and that little angle that you see on the cover, that has a plate in back of it and it's injected with foam. So your risk of damage in that are very, very depleted. And not to mention, if you did, those little wall sections are very replaceable, very easy. So that foam filled wall, which nobody's doing, is just one of the many things that are there for a purpose.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool to hear, because I had a buddy, we were up on Silver Lake in Traverse City, and a couple drinks had been had, and we're going around the lake, and we hit a wave, and he fell back and landed right into the door on the back and just dented it. And he wasn't hurt, it was fine, but it was such a pain for them to try to replace that because it wasn't foam filled, it was just metal. And when you got a big dent in sheet metal, he had to buy a brand new door, and it was kind of a pain for him to get those parts and everything. So the fact that you foam fill those and you make them replaceable, I can tell you firsthand, is very nice from the consumer standpoint.
And it was just, that was one of several things that I wanted to incorporate in this year's model. And the chassis, one thing I will say, I have seen fatigue, that the tubes and what can happen. So there's nobody doing pontoons as durable as what I'm doing. That if you look at that tube, it has inside of it, it's 0.125 thick metal. It's got 7 fully welded baffles that are down the length of it to help conform its shape and to make sure it does not have the ability to go bad. So I've learned a lot over the last 10, 11 years.
So have you always been in marine design? So you were at, QWEST, right? And then you branch off and you got QUEST. Has boat design and building been your thing for always?
For me, I came from the automobile industry.
Okay.
I worked for 18 years. I'm going to show my age here because I got, 18 and 20 years ago into the pontoon industry. But I worked at Saginaw Steering Gear. Mm-hmm. It was GM, then it was Delphi. I was a designer in intermediate shafts and then in steering columns. I did that. It was a great career and I had a great job there. And my brother owns the Quest with the QW, and he needed somebody in 2006 to come and engineer and do what I do. And when I was at Delphi at the time, they were in bankruptcy. It was a very negative place. And so design has always been 3D modeling using Unigraphics, ideas. CATIA was always my thing. So I brought that element into the boating world over there at Quest. And for them, everything was very, primitive, tribal in nature. Everything out on the floor was just things that people did to build their boat. There wasn't drawings, there wasn't documentation and things like that. I came in, brought design ability, incorporated a big water jet cutter, a CNC blade cutter. So I was in GM, Steve, for 18 years and then went in the marine industry for 18 years. So when I started there, that was new to me. Like I said, any problem that ever came along, I was a guy that always got it. So yeah, I've dealt with a lot there, and just building off of that experience and the experience of this boat, and want to offer it to dealers and that retail public. And
do you go direct to consumer then too?
I do not. Okay. I deal all through dealers, mostly because the motors that go on them have to be warranty registered. OEMs don't have the capability of doing that. So, I'm strictly manufacturing them and distributing them to dealers. So
what are some of the dealers that some of our listeners might know? I mean, Linwood Beach Marinas where yours is sitting, but what are some of the dealers you have in Michigan here? People could stop in and actually get on one of these.
Yeah. Freeway Sports in Fenton.
My uncle works there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He's a service manager at Freeway.
Dave?
Tom.
Oh, okay. Yep. I'm sure I know him.
So he was at Wilson for a long, long time, and then he went to Freeway.
Okay. Yeah. Freeway's really the biggest dealer that I've had. Freeway.
And that's in Grand Blanc.
Fenton.
It's in Fenton. Consider Fenton, right there at 23 and Thompson Road.
Yep, you got it. They're a great dealer. They're a dealer that was doing 30 Angler Quest triples a year, 40, 50 Quest boats, 75 Polar Craft boats. So great dealer. So they are very big, very competent. They've seen all the things and have gone through it with me. For me, a dealer is a partner, and you work together and try to provide them what they want for their business to have success, and yet support them and help them when issues come up, because they will come up. So,
That's the booth you were at, right? At Fishing Show?
Correct.
The Freeway booth that they had these on display.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. There's decks and docks down kind of into Detroit area. There's another guy in Muskegon. He's kind of in the process of setting up his, I guess, business, L&R Marine, which is just across the border in Shipshewana. Very Michigan. I mean, they're very close to Michigan. So for me, it's important that I don't overpopulate too many dealers on top of one another. So we're still building that. Still have a ways to go. So Freeway and Linwood Beach are your two big boys in Michigan here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
what's the biggest fish you've caught on your boat?
Biggest fish I've caught on my boat? Oh boy, that's a good question. So I've caught lots of kings. I'm also a very avid salmon fisherman, and that's really where I cut my teeth, is salmon fishing on the big water. So probably the biggest one I've personally caught is probably a 28 pounder. I've never caught in a 30-pound barrier, and I've caught in a lot of them. Lots of kings. The plan is to hit Southern Lake Michigan here in the spring, that Hammond, Indiana area, and then Michigan City to St. Joe. All the cohos are down in that area. Depends on the year, but typically it's a late March, April gig. So my plan is to be down there. I'm going to keep the boat right at Tackle Haven and Benton Harbor. Once the kings slide down there and the cohos start sliding up the coast. I don't know if you guys have ever done that type of fishing where that spring fishery.
All of us just shook our heads.
Do you drive 94 or 96 and 196 over to get there from Linwood?
So for me, I come across on, well, it'd be down 69 and then 94, I believe.
Oh, you take 94. Damn. I was saying, if you go 96, I'm 2 miles off the freeway.
Pick
them up. Pick them up. Yeah.
Hey, I'm willing to pick up hitchhikers, no problem. But I guess my point is that fishery is, it's incredible. I've done some shows with Michigan Out of Doors in the spring down in St. Joe. And
did you have them on a boat?
I did.
Yeah.
There's a really cool episode. It was a bummer because the day before we just drilled the kings, big ones too. And when we took Jordan out, that bite was kind of gone. We had to move. We did get in a bunch of Lakers. We got in some cohos, and we got a beauty silver king right at the last second to kind of, it was a great climax for the show itself, but it's a cool show because you get to see how green and clear the water is. And when you're fishing kings, typically they're on a thermocline as summer sets up, and you kind of work that thermocline over, and depending on the time of day, and target your baits in those areas. Well, in the spring, there is no thermocline. It is upper 40-degree water, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So those kings, they're a little smaller because they grow pretty voraciously throughout the year, but with no thermocline, they just fight hard from the time you hook them to the time you get them to the net, and they are dime chrome beauties. And I'll tell you that Lake Michigan fishery, that early spring fishery is incredible. All the cohos are in the Southern Lake, and you go down into Hammond, Indiana, you can have your limits in 45 minutes. It's almost, you're in Hammond. I mean, it's not exactly like, you're like, so my plan is the next time I go there, I want to incorporate some Panoptic stuff, deploy the trolling motor and cast to them, because you're trolling these big baits. Brad's fins, Thin's fins are what they're called. They're big treble hooks. And to really catch those fish and release them is a little bit irresponsible. So, you get into these fish and they're schooled up so heavily. I want to throw at them, cast at them. Then you could, keep catching them responsibly, let them, swim away without damage. And it's arguably, in my opinion, that spring coho is the best tasting salmon that we have in the Great Lakes. They are as orange that's on that cup there.
Yeah.
Yes, they're incredible, and it's action packed. They're generally smaller, but it's an opportunity that I like to get in on every year. So that's kind of the plan.
So what's the beam or what's the width on these boats? That
they are 8.5 foot wide.
So towable all over in the trailer.
They are.
Yeah.
And that's another thing people ask, well, how do they trailer? Well, people often think of the crank up style trailers that go under pontoons, and they're very tipsy.
Yeah.
Not
the wheels
ideal.
are inside the tube.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
But nowadays they have bunk trailers where the tubes are all resting in bunks, and they trailer great. About the only thing I tell people, if you have a half ton and a big pontoon boat, you can kind of watch your fuel gauge go down because it's catching a lot of wind. They tow fine. Power's not an issue. It just eat the gas if it's a 1500.
Well, that's with any 1500. You could tow most trailers and you can have 7 miles a gallon while you're towing.
Yes. So yeah, it's I go to shows throughout the year. My next show is going to be in Grand Rapids at the Ultimate Fishing Show. And we'll have a couple.
We will be there.
Ultimate Sports Show, Grand Rapids.
That's a great show.
I might show up.
You're working. You're being volunteered.
You live there
to work. So we'll have a
thanks
booth
for
there
doxing
too.
me.
Awesome.
So we'll be there with you, and we'll have to come and spend some time and walk the boats and picture about what it's going to be like when we go fishing with you.
Absolutely. Another fishery that is awesome too. These cohos that I talk about, they're in Southern Lake. Well, in mid-September, they get a huge push of fish that go up to Platte Bay, the Platte River.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the salmon first got planted in our state, is in Platte Bay. They were cohos. I don't know what they're planting now, but it wasn't too long ago. They're planting 1 million coho in the Platte River, and they have a hatchery up there. And so that means there's 100,000 fish that are going to that river in the fall. And it's like Alaska. Well, what happens is out in the big lake in Platte Bay, these fish stage out and they're in big schools and they're porpoising, and you go out there and there's a couple different ways to catch them. You can catch them casting spinners or jigging. You could troll too, but it's much more of an experience to throw for them and feel them bite it. And
God, I want to go fishing.
And it's
and real fishing, not stupid ice fishing.
So when they're down in the Southern Lake, these fish are 2, 3, maybe 4 pounders. Up there, they're going to be 6 to 12 pounds.
Jeez.
They're aggressive. And it's one of the coolest fisheries that exist. You go up on Platte Bay and you're in 80 foot of water throwing a spinner that's going down 3 foot or whatever. Panoptics and systems like that are a huge advantage when, if they're there and there's a big school, you're going to get one.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't porpoise. Sometimes they're a little under the surface. So it's a fishery that, that's the type of stuff I like to target. And of course, Saginaw Bay is my home water, and I fish the living heck out of that. And it is productive, and you guys are definitely going.
Yep.
And it's a great experience itself, but some of those other fisheries that happen are worth getting in on because they're just awesome.
Well, and the electronics, whether it's live sonar, Panoptics, I'm assuming they all just easily mount right to it's all kind of ready to go, receives it well. You can rig out your boat with whatever electronics you want to go with.
And that's something I was going to talk about too. These are such a specialized fishing boat. In the helm itself, on the center console, you can get up to 12-inch electronics. So we put 12-inch Garmin's in them. We're putting iPilots and Garmin Krakens and Garmin Force, which are generally 36-volt, very automated systems with remotes. We're putting autopilots are a very common thing. Kicker motor mounts are very common. Our boats come standard with kicker motor mounts on the triples.
Yeah.
So people are running autopilots. I'm a huge autopilot guy. Yeah. And if you haven't used one and you're a troller and then you take it away, during COVID, I couldn't get one for a couple months. And I tell you what, I couldn't get that fast enough.
My dad had an autopilot and it broke on the Detroit River.
Oh boy.
Walleye fishing. And they were like, yeah, we'll fix it for you. No problem. It's under warranty. It'll be 90 days. And he's like, I can't go 90 days without the damn thing. And he went and bought another one.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I feel his pain.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I often talk about spot lock and the anchor features on these bow mount. That's like the best thing since sliced bread, in my opinion. So is autopilot. Same thing.
Yep.
These, iPilots and the spot lock features. I carry an anchor, but when I'm perch fishing, I don't use it.
How does the spot lock work with a pontoon? Do you have any issue with the size of the boat with that?
Not at all.
No.
Just like any boat, if it's windy, it's going to work a little harder. So you're at jeopardy of running your battery bank down. Nowadays, brushless motors are kind of the norm, which allow you to carry your battery bank longer and longer. Now there's even lithium. So lithium lasts even longer. It's much lighter. So how it works is you deploy the trolling motor, hit spot lock or the anchor feature, and that GPS is located in the head of that unit, and it keeps you in the same place the whole time. It's incredible, actually.
Yeah. So that's the computer telling the trolling motor when to spin and where to turn and how to keep me right here.
Yep. It's rotating, pulsing, depending on what it needs to keep that exactly in the right spot. And they do a great job of keeping you right there. Of course, you got to calibrate them and do stuff like that when they're new, but it's an incredible thing.
And then you have a spot for forward-facing sonar. Do you do it right on the trolling motor, or do you have a separate setup for it?
Usually it's going to be a separate setup. You can set it up like in the crappie world. You might have heard of spider rigging, where these people, like, I've got a guide who's down in Grenada Lake, Mississippi. They say the world's biggest crappie come out of there. And they cast forward off of their trolling motor is how they use their panoptics. So before panoptics, they would take, they can run, generally a lot of these states, they have no rod limits. You can use as many as you want.
Yeah. And
they'll put 4 16-foot rods out in front of their boat in an array. And pre-panoptics, they would move along very slow, and they'll have a jig, and they'll stagger the jigs at different depths. And once they figure out the depth that they're biting, they'll kind of change over all their stuff to that depth, so they're more productive. Panoptics, you see your baits, you see the fish out there. You put it in front of them, they bite it. It's almost like cheating, quite honestly. It's incredible technology. For me, typically we've got an arm that is mounted into the track that's on the binary wall, which is the gunnel. And then you rotate that around to be able to see what you're looking for and what you're casting to.
Yeah, we've talked about forward-facing sonar a lot on here. I'm too poor to afford one because I work for a nonprofit, but I would love to try one, and I've heard so many good things. We were just talking, I think, a week or two ago about how ice fishing tournaments are making them illegal because they work so well.
Well, the bass tournament, the circuit this year, they outlawed them too, I think.
Yeah, Major League Fishing as a whole.
Wow.
Yeah, for the bass tournaments, they said no live sonar.
Which I get.
Yeah.
There's states talking about making it illegal. In Wisconsin, Minnesota, in those areas, if you're not live scoping, you're behind 8 ball. You're not as evolved as what you could be. So it is incredible technology. And, when we're trolling out here, it's not necessarily, a thing, but I will say this: trolling is very productive, and limits are the norm out there, but panoptics can be deployed in areas. It may not be as productive, but it's a little more of an experience because you're casting, you're seeing, you're feeling it. It's a little more one-on-one, like what ice fishing is. And in fact, in the tournament last year, the owners tournament that I referred to earlier, the guy who won the big fish, that's how they caught it, was live scoping.
Okay.
Like a 6.5 pounder.
Wow. Targeting.
But so it's incredible technology, and these boats, have features to be able to incorporate all that latest technology.
So now then we have a very good mutual friend with Mike Avery. Is he running an Angler Quest boat?
He is.
Okay. And he's a big walleye guy.
He is.
So this thing will set up for anything you're chasing, because he's a walleye snob. I love you, Mike, but he's a very big walleye guy. But he's always the one talking about how he's on the water. He's doing his skinny water. He's doing all of his tricks. And so he's he's slaying walleyes in one of these, and you're talking about cohos and salmon. And so it's the whole gamut.
It is. Mike is a friend of mine. He's been a partner with me in this from the inception. And he's just like everybody who runs one. They love them, and they can't wait to get back in them. And it's a niche product that is specific to fishing, not Grandpa's pontoon with 2 fishing seats and a 5-gallon live well.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But Mike is a great guy, and that's a good testament of the product. He loves his skinny water. He's fishing 3.5 to 8 foot of water routinely, and I love that water too. I like the bigger water out in the deeper stuff, so I can put my spread out. I don't have to fight the weeds and things like that. But everybody has their comfort level and what they're confident in. And Mike, he loves that skinny water, and it is a cool place to be in.
Have you got to fish with him?
Yeah. We always usually do a live, at least one Wednesday night live where he'll come on my boat, maybe bring a guest or two, and we go out and fish and do the live events. Those live events are very impactful.
Mhm.
I have people that will refer to a live a few years ago. Man, I saw you guy with Mike, and we usually always do very well. So
it's good luck for fishing.
It is. And I do fish with Mike on occasion. He usually comes with me. But yeah, he's a huge advocate of the product and a great guy. And I'm really, really happy to call him my friend and a partner in what I'm doing.
Yeah, he's a great member of MUCC
Speaks
as well.
very highly of Angler Quest as well.
Yep. And so, I mean, you said with earlier just how if you're not innovating, you're falling behind, and you've got so much into this. I mean, what's next for you? What's next for some new feature, something that maybe you could do a teaser if you can't announce it, we understand. But how do you keep making such a good product better? And what do you guys have coming next?
You listen to your retail people and listen to your dealers. I would love to have a full windshield boat. That is something I hear about quite often. I could see a core design for that. Now, as you look through this catalog, you'll notice it's pretty limited. There's not a lot of models in there. And as I move forward, I'm going to introduce other models back into that mix. A full windshield feature would be incredible. Honestly, I talk about Panoptics. Trolling on Saginaw Bay is super, super prevalent and the way to go. However, there is a push for live scope. So I could see this boat really focused on that particular technology to be able to utilize it more effectively. So I could see things like that, Steve. And you mark my words, Panoptics and casting for walleyes on Saginaw Bay are going to develop and be a thing. Yes, it may not be that sounds so much fun. Super, super productive, but the experience is a little different and some people will really enjoy it. And I kind of refer to ice fishing out there as an experience that I love on Saginaw Bay because they come in on your live scope or Vexlar or whatever you have and you work them over and then boom, you feel them bite it. It's just you and the fish. And that's the thing about casting and live scope. You have that element that is back into the game. So I could see features on the boats evolved to that.
That's awesome. And so it's at anglerquestpontoons.com, anglerquest, Quest, as Mike, I'll quote Mike Avery again.
Yep.
Quest. And so Freeway Marina, look up the other marinas, come to Ultimate Sports Show in Grand Rapids.
Great place.
And come walk the boats, come meet Brad. You're going to be there too?
I absolutely will.
So come get to meet Brad, the brains behind it. Anything else that we didn't ask you about or anything you wanted to bring up or touch on?
I think for the most part, guys, I'm like I told you guys, I can talk about this stuff forever. So I'm a fisherman that is rounded into a lot of different arenas, as you heard earlier, salmon and walleye, but I've also done some traveling where I've fished for the stripers that you're talking about, Tyler. I've done the catfish stuff. And so for me, I need to start this product out simple to get started. As I move on and expand into other areas, I'm going to reintroduce those practical areas and target those areas.
That's awesome. Well, we're wishing you all the best of luck. We're going to get out on the water with you, get some fish, and get everybody to see one of these things in person. That'll be a lot of fun.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the Michigan Outdoors podcast is proud to partner with WM Bayou. At WM Bayou, we believe in going against the grain and pushing the boundaries of traditional lure design. Our team of avid fishermen are passionate about designing lures that deliver more fish and bigger fish to our customers. Our goal is simple: to help our customers dominate the water and make their time on the water even more special. MUCC members now receive 20% off their order with your exclusive discount code found in your member portal. And then to wrap things up, so we have Outdoor Rama, like we talked about, coming up February 20th through 23rd. Our On the Ground did a wood duck box maintenance event this Saturday, February 15th at Maple River. They had 25 volunteers come out and they were able to improve almost 50 acres of habitat. And then lastly, we have our convention coming up March 7th through 9th, and that will be at Treetops Resort in Gaylord, Michigan.
All members are welcome. You can still register. All of our voting delegates have been credentialed, and we're moving through that process. But any member of MUCC is welcome at convention to use your voice. You're not a voting delegate, but you can come, give opinion, meet people. So there still is room to come and enjoy the day with us up at Treetops.
No closed doors. Any members welcome. Come on in. Make your voice heard.
And one thing I want to say is I appreciate what you guys do in the organization that you're leading up in your areas, because us as sportsmen, we need that. And you're out there fighting for us. So I appreciate it. And I know everybody else does as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Thank you, Brad. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It was great. And we will see everyone next episode.